Welcome to Jared Scott Outdoors. This YouTube channel is dedicated to getting our youth more involved in the outdoors. To do this, I'll be out with family and friends doing all sorts of outdoor adventures. This week on Jared Scott Outdoors, we're out to do some high mountain lake fishing. So, to get here, however, was an 8-mile trip. We're going to do a combination of biking, we're going to do some hiking. When I say we, that's Rylee here, and then in the end, we're going to do some fishing. It looked like he just had a hit that he missed. Where are we at? Well, this is the Upper Palisades Lake. And there's two lakes. This is the upper of the two, and just one of the prettiest lakes, in my opinion, that I've hiked into, just because of the color of the water. It has just a beautiful, beautiful blue-green color. Anyway, so it's been quite the fun trip. We're having some fun fishing right now, and we're going to show you all about it. We got an early start and were surprised to see a nearly empty parking lot. However, it would be completely full by the time we got back later in the day. Head across the bridge that crosses Palisades Creek and get going. The trail is used enough that there's no question where to go. In fact, if you want to camp here, there's also a nice campground at the trailhead right along the river. This can be a popular place, so if you come on a weekend or a busy summer month, you may not find an open site. Right off the bat, you'll notice how much of an impressive setting this trail is in. It follows the Palisades Creek very closely, which, on a side note, can be a fun place to fish. Anyhow, it's a beautiful setting. The trail is tucked under mature trees and along lots of vegetation so that you nearly feel like you're in a jungle. This also helps to keep it cooler during the heat of the day. Overall, the trail is quite flat and easy to bike. However, every now and then there are spots that, at least for us, required walking the bikes. So the thing that stands out with this trail is just how pretty it is right from the get-go. Right from the trailhead, you're following the creek and you're just in a nice bit of growth, a lot of tree cover, just a really beautiful setting, and being able to follow the Palisades Creek all the way up really makes it nice as well. So anyways, we're just getting started. Time to put this camera away, put it in the backpack so we can actually ride and get up this trail. We brought out the GoPro for this bike ride, but I didn't realize the case window had a dirty film on it. Even through the slightly dirty window, you can get a good feel for what this trail is like. Alright, we are putting on a good sweat right now. We've gone about 3 miles so far. And that's actually with a little extra side trip. I had to backtrack about a mile or so because I lost my hat that I had hung on my backpack. So we've actually probably done about 4.5 miles. But anyways, we've got another probably 2 miles to the first of the Upper Palisades Lakes, and it's just been going nice. The bikes definitely make it where you're a lot quicker, that's for sure. But there's times when we're walking, we're not awesome professional riders by any means, and so there's lots of walking involved. And that's all right. We'll enjoy it when we go back down.
Well, one thing about this trail that's really cool is it's pretty the whole way up. We've been along this stream the whole time, and it's just super pretty, the trail, all the way up.
At this point, the canyon starts to get a little tighter. In fact, there ends up being about a half dozen bridges to cross to make your way all the way up past the cliffy sections. The big tree canopy gives way to more smaller trees, but there's still plenty of bushes and vegetation that barely gives you room to bike through in some spots. When you see this impressive view of the river from the bridge, you'll know the trail is about to get steeper. It actually turns into several switchbacks that for us was a section for walking the bikes. You'll also know at this point that you're nearly to the first of the Upper Palisades Lakes, 5 miles in. When you see these signs, you're at the camping area for the first lake. Just look to the right and you'll see the only good flat area I know about. When we got there, there were several tents and campers just getting up for the morning. Keep going just a little further, and then you'll spot the lake. This is where you want to leave the trail and hike over to the lake to get the best view of it. It's a pretty lake for sure, but shallow and surrounded by so many thick bushes that it's hard to access. At this point, you'll probably notice a lot more people hiking around. It seems to be the furthest point that many of the hikers and backpackers reach, but trust me, if you can, you'll want to make it up to the second lake. The view and the lake itself is well worth it.
Alright, well, this is the lower of the Upper Palisades Lakes, and we've gone about 5 miles, and it's only been about 2 hours, so we're doing pretty good, going pretty quick. And another reason why this is a good bike trail is because we only gained about 400 feet of elevation in 5 miles, so it's a real gradual uphill.
All right, as Rylee said, we made it to the first of the Upper Palisades Lakes, and it's interesting how different these two lakes are, and you'll see when we get up to the upper one. But even on Google Earth, if you look at it from up there, this one has kind of a darker color to it because it's kind of murky water, where the upper one has a beautiful, beautiful blue-green color to it, and you can actually see that from Google Earth. It's pretty cool. But anyways, this one's it's surrounded by brush, and so it's kind of a harder one to fish per se. There are fish in it. You're gonna have a hard time fly fishing because of all the brush, where the upper one has a little bit more openings, a little clear water, but definitely more room to navigate around the edges. You can camp here at this lake. There's actually some pretty decent campgrounds. It's a pretty busy spot, however. A lot of people have this as their destination, and so they come up to this point. So if you come up on a weekend, you got to be here early if you think you're going to get a campsite. But anyways, this is the first lake. We've made it, and we've got about 2 miles left before we park our bikes and if that, and hike up to the Upper Palisades Lake. And it's a pretty flat trail from here to there too. I think it's less than 200 feet in that, so we should cover that pretty quick. But anyways, we'll get after it. We got to keep our eyes out for other hikers because there's quite a few. We're running into quite a few more up here, and so we got to be careful when we're on the bikes. This is a great place to take a break. Get a drink, eat some snacks, and just enjoy the view. When you're ready, just keep following the trail. The trail follows the edge of the lake, although you may not realize it much as it's so thick with brush you can barely see very far in front of you, let alone to your right or left. In fact, the handlebars of our bikes were constantly in the branches. If you're lucky, in the few breaks in the brush that allow you to see the lake, you may spot wildlife. Moose are very common visitors to this lake with its shallow, muddy edges, but on this particular morning, it was geese. I was surprised to see so many geese this high up, but even more surprised that they didn't seem to care that I was right off the trail filming them. Well, while we're taking a break here, I just wanted to mention one thing as far as if you come up here and bring some bikes up like we have done. This is a pretty popular trail, especially on the weekends, which is why I specifically did not come up here over the weekend. I waited till a weekday just so I could make sure there wouldn't be nearly as many people. So, you know, there's enough people. I don't know if you'd want to bring bikes on a weekend. It's kind of your call, but you'll want to make sure to be pretty careful. There's a lot of horses that come up, and this is a tight trail, almost from the beginning to the end. You know, it's tight. There's a few places that open up. There's some times that you're just completely enclosed, and so you got to be careful with the horses, with hikers, especially going down. We'll have to be careful and go slow so we don't run into people. And anyway, so just kind of keep that in mind if you want to come up here and bike, is that you got to be aware of all the people on horses and all the other hikers and things like that, and just be careful. After a few minutes of watching the geese feed, we decided we better get on up the trail. It was more of the same until getting past the lake. This is when the trail actually opens up in some spots that are great for bike riding conditions, but then just as quickly we'd find ourselves back in steep or rocky sections that we had to walk the bikes through. This was definitely one of those cases where my memory from years back was a bit lacking, because overall the bike riding was more like bike walking for much of it. That being said, we pushed through and made it to the point in which I was planning to ditch the bikes to continue the rest of the way on foot. We have finally got to the spot where we're going to stash our bikes, which also means we get rid of these helmets. I am just a sweaty mess. I'm probably sweating more than I would have had I just hiked. Well, I guarantee I am. That last little bit that I thought wouldn't be too bad was actually, well, from point A to point B isn't too bad. There's a lot of this and a lot of rocks. Rylee was kind of griping a little bit for it, but we've stashed the bikes, so now it's we'll go on foot the rest of the way. We're just about to where you cross the bridge and start the switchbacks up to the upper lake, so no reason to take the bikes there. So next phase of the hike here.
All right, well, my dad told me that the last 2 miles until where we stashed our bikes from that lower lake was going to be pretty flat. Ended up being the exact opposite of that. We were pretty much walking the whole way with our bikes. It's pretty dumb.
Yeah, a lot of times when you're using your bikes, it doesn't seem like it's worth it. But at least 2/3 of it we'll be able to ride back down to that lower lake, and we'll enjoy it then. But coming up, not so much.
From here you can see the saddle right up there, right over those trees, where the Upper Palisades Lake is, where we're going to go do a little bit of fishing, and also the peak. So the trail from here drops back down to the river and switches back up to the lake.
So the trail drops down and crosses the river for the first time since leaving the lower lake. You'll recognize this bridge as it's totally different than the rest you will have crossed up to this point. It's a very impressive bridge for this far into the mountains. After crossing, the trail immediately starts the upward climb to the upper lake. As the crow flies, the lake isn't very far at all, but the trail switched back so many times to get up to it that it still takes a little time. That being said, it is still an easy hike, so don't worry about that. After about 8 miles of hiking, it was good to see the blue-green water of the Upper Palisades Lake.
Alright, well, here we are at the lake. It wasn't too bad of a hike to get up on those switchbacks, and there you can already see a bunch of fish surfacing, so we're going to head down there and start fishing and hopefully get some.
Well, we've made it here to the Upper Palisades Lake, and as you can see, it's just a beautiful lake. This is for sure a gem in southeastern Idaho, and we've got a lot of those that define southeast Idaho. Another gem that helps define southeast Idaho is Crossroads RV in Chubbuck. It's a family-owned and operated business. When you go there, you're going to get the personal service you want and the personal service you need. So if you're looking for an RV this year before hunting season gets started, or just for the tail end of summer, swing on in there and let those guys help you out. But for now, let's show you this lake. This upper lake is a full mile long, so lots of room to explore. However, the trail stays up above it about 50 yards or so as it parallels the lake to the far end. Rather than follow the trail too far, however, we figured we'd just drop down and get to fishing. While Riley's getting his fishing stuff ready, the first thing we noticed is there are a lot of mosquitoes. As soon as we got here, they were on us. Luckily, I brought some mosquito repellent, so we had some good 100% DEET to take care of that. But if you come up here, even the lower lake, you're going to definitely want to have mosquito repellent. The other thing you got to watch out for is what is surrounding this lake everywhere, and that's stinging nettle. And if you haven't experienced that, all it takes is brushing your arm or bare skin up against it, a leg, and you're going to be itching for a while. So very uncomfortable, and there's just tons of it here. I'm not sure why, but the stinging nettle seems to be the most prevalent in this area by the outlet of the lake. I don't recall it being very bad around the inlet a mile to the east. As we sat there eating a snack and getting out the fishing gear, we could see dozens of cutthroat cruising along the shoreline looking for flies to gulp. There was no question there were plenty of fish in the lake. They weren't big by any means, just your typical pan fryer sized trout, the perfect kind to cook over a campfire. Seeing so many fish cruising around, we wondered how quickly Rylee would catch his first one.
First cast?
First cast, let's see it happen.
Oh.
He did get a hit, but no fish. As he continued to cast, he got a handful of hits that he missed, but then they seemed to wise up to him. That was making us a little nervous. So, we switched our lures, and that was all it took for Rylee to hook up. He did officially land it, but then it slipped out of his hands right in the water. Then it was my turn. It took me a few casts as well before setting the hook, but I got one on. This one is way bigger than what Rylee caught. Just a little cutthroat. There he goes. All right, Rylee's was twice as big as that, but at least I got it on camera.
Oh, that's quick. That ain't even real. Alright, well these fish are pretty small, but they're really pretty still.
Rylee still gets the bigger fish. It's just a very skinny, but very pretty cutthroat. Got orange on there. But that is a skinny fish, I'll tell you what. Rylee's got the big ones.
Alright, well here in a second after I reel this one in, we're gonna go try to get in a different spot that doesn't have so much stinging nettle around. And hopefully get some fish over there.
With the water so still and clear, the fish seemed to figure us out and quit biting. That was easily fixed by just moving down the shoreline a little so we could cast to a few different fish. Back up on the trail, we headed further down the lake. In reality, the beauty of this lake is best seen from above. It allows you to see the incredible colors of the lake. We actually didn't go too far before deciding to drop on down and try another spot. Of course, it wasn't a hard decision when we saw so many fish slurping up flies, even from clear up above off the trail. I bet you we only went 200 yards from the bottom end of the lake up here, and there's already no stinging nettle. So if you come up here, I would definitely maybe bypass the end of the lake there and just come on up a little further. It's a little steeper, gets a little deeper it looks like as well, but at least we're not sitting and fishing in stinging nettle here. Just as we expected, it didn't take too long for Rylee to hook into another.
Aha. Oh, there goes another fish. It was a pretty nice one as well, at least for this lake. We're just catching them off of this red dotted Castmaster.
Well, they all seem to be about the same size. Just pan fryers. Well, as you can see, the trail just keeps on going. This lake is about a mile long, and every bit of it is just beautiful. As you can see, this is a gem. It is truly a gem in southeastern Idaho. So whether you come up here biking, hiking, coming out to fish, or summiting a peak, we've got Palisades Peak right here to the right. There's all kinds of things to do right here in this little area. It's just a beautiful area. So come on out here. You know, go somewhere else. Go out and take your kids out into the outdoors. Enjoy the summer. Make sure to make use of the time that you've got. I hope you. These episodes can't be done without your help. You know the drill. Please make some comments, like, and subscribe, and I'll keep working on more videos.